Having a disability can change you. Despite some of the narratives in the media, the story of sustaining a spinal cord injury at any age isn't actually the worst thing to ever happen to you.
I'm T6 paraplegic.
I am a C5, C6 quadriplegic.
And I'm a C6 to T3 quadriplegic.
The path to fulfillment, freedom, and independence is the same for everyone. It just might look a little different.
Hi, my name's Rob Wynn, and I am the manager of the Peer and Family Support Program at SCIA.
Hi, my name is Dan Holt. I'm the team leader of the Peer and Family Support Program at SCIA.
Hi, my name is Jess. I am part of the Peer and Family Support team at Spinal Cord Injuries Australia.
Spinal Cord Injuries Australia's Peer and Family Support Team is a group of people who have lived experience with spinal cord injury. They share advice, knowledge, and practical help to mentor and support those with a spinal cord injury and their families. My name is Susan Wood, and you're listening to Have the Nerve, a podcast brought to you by Spinal Cord Injuries Australia. We took a deep dive into what is truly important. Join us as we talk about the biggest lessons, mental health, what independence means to them, and what they've learnt about themselves along the way. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me this morning. A lot of our listeners obviously have spinal cord injuries. You can share as much as you want. Do you mind sharing how you acquired your disability?
I acquired my spinal injury from a motor vehicle accident in which my sister and I were both involved. Our mother was killed, and my sister and I both sustained significant spinal injuries. We were in hospital at the kids' Westmead Children's Hospital, and we were there for approximately 4.5 to 5 months, and we left 20 years ago yesterday, actually.
So 2008, I was living and working over in Canada. I had the dream job. I had just been taken on to full-time employment with the millwrights, which look after the ski lifts and service them. Everything was literally going perfectly. I went to a softball end of season function that night, and unfortunately, due to intoxication, I recall walking towards a set of stairs, and then unfortunately was found on the staircase. And as a result, I was left with the C5, C6 broken neck. I did all my rehab over in Canada at GF Strong. The hospital and rehab facility all up, I think I was there for 7 months. Had to move from Whistler down to Vancouver and stayed in Vancouver for about 18 months before relocating back to Australia in 2010, sorry. So, and ever since then, I've been back here. And yeah, that's actually how I ended up getting the job with SCIA, is because I was a NeuroMoves client and slowly did the peer and family support type of deal ad hoc with other clients, picking my brain about different things that I knew, and was successful in becoming a peer support agent out of that.
In 2005, I remember going out for a bit of a jog, bit of a run, and kept tripping over and thought, oh, this is a bit weird. It actually felt like my sort of legs weren't keeping up with the rest of my body. So as you do, got onto Google and saw all the bad things that were going to kill me. And look, I actually went for a period of 3 years misdiagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, when actually I had a whopping great tumor growing in my spinal cord. So eventually in 2008, when I really, was really at my wit's end, I got diagnosed, and I think by chance really, but I managed to get diagnosed and had an MRI, and they found, actually, my surgeon told me it was one of the biggest benign tumors that he'd ever seen. So yeah, I had surgery and got it removed, and that was a success. And then went straight into quite a heavy rehab program. Surprisingly, I actually wasn't in a spinal rehab facility. But I think because of that, I kind of worked harder to try and improve and get better. And And yeah, being incomplete, with the thread of spinal cord left, I managed to be able to walk, and since then, yeah, I've got in the pool. I've got fairly fit, but I've also joined our NeuroMoves program, which has been fantastic. But I think by chance I got into the peer support program around the same time as 2012, I want to say. And then, yeah, just stuck in and worked hard, and now work with all these fantastic people managing the service. So yeah, I mean, as horrible as our stories sound, there are so many positives and that come out of this. And I think you'll probably hear that throughout this podcast.
These stories can be shocking for some people to hear, but this is the reality. Having a disability can change you. Perceptions of relationships, perceptions of society. After so many years, what have been some of the biggest lessons to Rob, Dan, and Jess?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with you, Rob. Because everybody's had their spinal cord injury for such varying degrees of time. What is the biggest lessons that you've learned since the injury?
I think that it makes you into a better person. I really do. And I think we would all say that, as hard as it is, we get on, we manage, we work, we're part of the community. We kind of put up with our disability, but we all acknowledge that we've got our own problems, our levels of independence. We need help now and again. But I think I've become more of a patient person.
God, I would have hated to have seen him before.
yeah, you would. Yeah, look, I think it brings. I mean, it has to bring patience out of you, because you just can't do the things you wanted to do quickly anymore. So, I do often say that probably I wouldn't go back to how I was before now, because I'm so content with the injury, and I like everybody doing things for me, so that's good. But yeah, look, I think it does change your life. Your outlook is different. I had young kids at the time of my injury, and you can't see the wood for the trees at the beginning, and in essence, I think because we've learned all those lessons, it makes us better at talking to people, listening to people. I mean, listening is important. But yeah, I think all up, it does make you a better person.
I guess following on that, the patience was probably the biggest thing, being a quadriplegic and really needing to rely on other people to be my hands. Surrendering to the injury, I think, was the hardest thing for me to do. Yeah, I think Rob's really hit it on the head there. But yeah, always, I guess, having to rely on someone and being able to tell someone how and what I need in a nice way, instead of coming across as an absolute prick. That was very hard at the start. I mean, I was a very independent person. I was probably a bit of a rough nut, like a bit always sort of. I mean, I did door work, so I had a fuse, and I always got myself into a bit of mischief. And I think it sort of made me step back and realize what was important now. Family, friends, relationships are important, not all the little nitty-gritty crap that I used to sort of stress on. And I think that's what I sort of take forward now in life, is that, family comes first with anything, even before work. And I think that's probably something that I really pride myself in, is looking after my family as much as I can in the situation that I'm in, and being able to be just a good friend and a solid person to sort of lean on as support, because I'm appreciative of all the support that I get off people. So it's just a way that I can sort of give back.
Empathy is such a big thing, and I think that as a person with a disability, you learn a lot about empathy, and you learn about what your situation is, and where you want to put your time and energy into. And for me, it's quite similar to Dan. It's around my family, and it's around the things that I really value the most in my life. And that's where you want to have that empathy and that compassion, and really just kind of be that person, particularly working in the peer and family support team, is that you've got to be able to connect on that emotional level, because you've been in that situation to a certain extent, and there's always parallels in anyone's story. It may not be, no one's ever going to be exactly the same, but there's always going to be those parallels, and being able to channel that empathy that I have and really just understand that I'm able to make a difference in someone's life. It's also given me more of a purpose in life, which has just been, it's been such a huge opportunity for me.
I mean, it's interesting that all three, including myself, I guess, really hone in on community and family quite significantly. And I guess to Dan's point, a lot of it is because you need to step back and rely on so many people. How do you all maintain independence? Like, what does independence mean to you? We'll start with you, Jess.
I think independence to me is quite a unique one in my own way. I'm able to live by myself. I have a support worker come in once a week to help out here and there. But my independence to me is about me being financially independent, and I'm able to do that because of the opportunities I've been given from being in a chair. Having a spinal injury has actually offered me, and very rarely does this happen, but it's offered me a lot of financial stability, and I'm a very, very fortunate human being in one of the most unlucky situations. And it really doesn't happen a lot for a lot of people anymore, the way that it happened for me, because my injury happened 20 years ago. But my own physical independence is one that is constantly evolving, because my injury evolves as I get older and things change. So it's basically being aware of what's evolving. Are there things that I have to deal with, or I don't want to deal with at this point in time, but have to be taken care of? It's a constant evolution.
Well, I just step back just to the previous questions. I was just thinking there, and I mean, I think for all of us, one of the big things is if this injury hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have met all these good people, and I think that is that's really important, and we should acknowledge that. I mean, I think independence for me has been learning from other people. It's not just about me being able to do a whole lot of things. And I think when I first had my injury and I went into rehab, I just went really gung ho trying to walk and be able to do all these things, and I had the realization many years later that walking really wasn't that important for me at all. I think what I did is I neglected my independence. I would stay at home. I'd actually didn't use a wheelchair for many years. One of the big drivers for me during my injury was, I actually had a friend of mine who had terminal cancer when I had my injury. And I remember him saying to me one time, he said, mate, I'm going to die here and you're going to live a long life, just get out in that wheelchair and do stuff, So it was a real kick up the butt for me. And that really made me see what independence meant, getting out in that chair, doing stuff, getting out with the kids, and just accepting where you're at any one time,
I guess independence, independence for me, I guess it's a struggle, right? I rely on care quite a bit. I have care in the morning and at night. So I guess independence sort of looks different to me. Anything that I can actually have a crack at, I'll try my hardest to do, whether I fail 400 times at it. I'm one of those people that's got just enough mongrel in him to not quit all the time. I do get lazy, don't get me wrong. When there's someone standing next to you saying, "Oh, would you like this?" Of course I'm going to reach out and say yes. But I think the biggest ones are when I first was left at home alone after rehab. Then I sort of realized how much I'm reliant on everyone, and that sort of made me step up as much as I could to to make my own lunch, to go down to the shops myself, to try and get money out of the cash machine, or even at that stage ask. because it's one of those things where I couldn't get my card back out of the machine. So there's things that I can do to a certain point, and I'm aware of it. But then, having to ask for that help is also, it's an extension of I look at it as an extension of my independence. It's the same as my service dog that I've got, Charlie. He's an extension of my independence. So, he helps me with things that I can't do, or I can't do quick enough. So I guess that's probably how I look at my independence. And I also keep an eye on all the surgeries and different things that are coming out that allow people, different technology that allow people now compared to 12 years ago when I injured myself, that give people the extra shot at being as independent as possible. I just had nerve surgery 2.5 years ago, I think it is now, that gave me the ability to open and close my hands and also give me a bit of a tricep. So that in itself, from not having it, is absolutely massive. So
just to touch on Rob's point about actually knowing people with a disability to try and get more information, because I myself did not know anything until I actually met Rob, and then he had this conversation with me that was like, telling me about all this stuff. So the importance of peer support, I guess, is really just trying to share information, share knowledge, and trying to extend that out to the community, I guess. So does anybody want to talk a little bit more on this point?
Yeah, I will, 100%. One of the biggest things that, and I don't know what it was that stopped me from doing it, but wheelchair sports, bless their heart, they bugged me and bugged me and bugged me and bugged me and bugged me. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why until I really started playing wheelchair rugby. It was jammed down my throat in Canada because the creator of the sport was actually my rec therapist over there. And I couldn't quite understand it. Being an able-bodied rugby player, it didn't appeal to me whatsoever. I couldn't tackle anyone, so I didn't think it was rugby. You know what I mean? But it wasn't until that I started playing it here, and it wasn't just the fact that it got me fitter, it got me active, it got me out of the house, it gave me something to do or look towards as a goal. But being around the other guys and girls in chairs that have been in chairs for so long, the different things and tips and hints that I picked up on how to transfer, how to, get your license, how to get around town, how to utilize care hours, all these little things that I hadn't thought about. And I'd been going about probably, I wouldn't say the wrong way, but it sort of changed. It changed everything in my life, being around these guys and girls that have been in chairs for 20, 30 years. And just to see that someone at my exact level can be even more independent than what I was being at the time. So I think 100% anyone that says that, they didn't like, or they didn't hang around. I mean, sorry, the way that I looked at things before, I didn't hang around people in chairs, able-bodied. So why would I now? It was totally the wrong mindset. It was like, okay, I need to get around my fellow brethren now. Like this is what it is. I didn't get rid of my mates that aren't able-bodied, but it's really good having ones that are in chairs because they understand the horrible days that you go through, with our bowel bladder, like accidents or whatever. Where able-bodied people don't understand that little things that can flatten us. And I think that was probably the biggest thing. And I honestly put it down to Sebastian Van Venedeel, who was the wheelchair sports guy at the time doing rugby, and Curtis Palmer that really dragged me down. So I can't thank those guys ever enough for helping me out for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to echo very similar to what Dan has said in regards to sport playing such a huge part in my independence. I learned so much more. Again, very similar to your story, Susan. I grew up rurally. We grew up on a farm, and I found that my sister and I, being the only two wheelchair users for 100 kilometers, was quite confronting. So I think it was it opened my eyes when I got to meet just like-minded ideals similar to what we were going through. And when I started playing wheelchair basketball, I learnt about independence so much more. It was huge. And it's to all the people that I was teammates with and still continue to be teammates with. I cannot believe how much I learnt just from being around those individuals. Not just about the sport, but about life in general. It's not just about the practical stuff. It's all about again, it's all about, how they do life, and, what their routine is of a morning, how they get out of bed well, and, what sort of stuff they run into of a morning, type of thing when they're first getting out of bed. So, it's always been that type of, it's so hugely based around community. I think particularly in the spinal community and neuro community, that it's been such a huge benefit to me.
Rob, would you like to add anything?
What was the question, Susan?
No, it's just I was just echoing your point about, learning from other people with spinal cord injuries and being so far away. And so for, okay, well, let's just say this, for example, Rob, if somebody were to be living in a rural community where they're the only ones who have a spinal cord injury, what steps do you reckon they should take in order to try and find more information? How do you find more information, basically?
Funnily enough,
here we go.
Yeah, we had a little road trip to Lightning Ridge a few weeks ago, and in the middle of nowhere, all dirt roads. I mean, not very accessible at all. I stumble across a guy in a wheelchair struggling down the street, and pouring down with rain. Actually, it was a horrible day. And anyway, I just happened to chat with him, and he'd never really had any supports. He's one of these who'd fallen through the cracks, and we talk about that a lot. But really, people in those areas, rural, regional areas, are the need key supports. They really do. And they are a lot of the people that we want to come back to us, because they don't get any help. Services are very restricted in those areas, not in all areas, but in a lot of those areas.
The gaps in knowledge and the lack of preparedness actually highlight an area that many may not think about when it comes to people with spinal cord injuries. So, theoretically, could the lack of information leading to the lack of further independence be one of those key gaps?
And I guess our role in peer support is to get these people who are moving back to these areas, before discharge, ready and able to go out there and make connections, and speak to the right people and ask the right questions, So I guess it's our role to educate them. It's all about learning new skills. We obviously have an education program that covers a whole variety of topics, relating to the injury. But essentially, we want these people to go and engage in the community and participate in activities, and it's not a doom and gloom story, and Dan will attest to that. It's really about living your life and going, living it the best way you can, having the best people around you and the best support, so that's what we're here and what we do. But yeah, I mean, I've traveled the regional areas, and I've seen a lot of sad stories where clients have had to move from their hometown to somewhere more accessible, so yeah, it's really about us gearing our clients up so they're prepared. They've got better preparedness when they're discharged and they go home.
Talking about an area of mental health that people don't really think about when it comes to spinal cord injury, and can actually affect people wherever they are in Australia. So I guess from your experience, when you get down, what helps you get out of feeling down?
Yeah, I'm I guess I don't want to say man enough to say it, but I've just pulled myself sort of out of a pretty dark spot in the last sort of 6 months, and it sort of got to a point where I guess I didn't believe anyone knew what the fuck was going on with me. And sorry to swear, I don't know if we're allowed to do that on this thing. So it got pretty bad in my head, and I needed to I needed to actually reach out, and I'm glad that sort of I was pushed in the direction to do it. I got a phenomenal partner. She sort of said it might be worthwhile. You know, my parents almost said as well, like it might be worthwhile talking to someone that doesn't know me. Now, I haven't spoken to a psychologist since rehab. I didn't think it would work. However, venting it all out, I think, helped me compartmentalize everything back into where it needed to be. And I think that's what I was really struggling with at the time. It was just that word, compartmentalizing everything. Yeah, that's the one. And I just couldn't put it in because it felt so under the pressure of everything. And not only that, but I think the other big thing for me was being able to train. COVID was one of the issues that I had that made me feel a bit down, but it wasn't the pinpoint, I guess. It was before that. A few things in my life had slid off that I was really passionate about, and I let slide off, and it was my fault. And getting back into it is I guess, is the hardest thing. But reaching out and asking for help was probably the hardest thing that I've done. And I'm so glad that I did it, because I don't want to think about what would happen if I didn't. However, you know, like, I'm in a great spot now. I really am. I feel fantastic in doing what I've done. I love that I'm back in the gym. I'm training as much as I can. I went out and I bought a Bartech. I'm not flogging their product, but a hand cycle, and knock out Ks after Ks after Ks on that, and it makes me feel like out riding a bike again. Something again that I never thought I'd do after my accident. And technology has been able to change the fact that I can do that quite easily now. So I think the biggest thing for me is was admitting that I needed the help and talking to someone that didn't know me, so there was no judgment. And then the second biggest thing for me was looking after my physical well-being. So getting back in the gym and kicking my ass, because I used to love doing that able-bodied, and with the wheelchair rugby and playing for New South Wales, that was a requirement. So it was something that it dropped off, and it was something that I obviously was a huge part of my life that I quite enjoyed. So I needed to get back into it. So yeah, definitely for me was the physical fitness side of things, and talking to someone has really, really helped.
Awesome. I'm really glad. No, that's really good. Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I've struggled with mental health for at least the last 15 years. Having a traumatic injury, or I hate the word traumatic because all injuries are traumatic, but having having such a injury is the way that had it. I had a lot of PTSD and a lot of guilt, a lot of survivor's guilt, and it's only been in the last 2 months that I've really done some super, super intensive therapy to get me through the stuff that I'm getting through, and that's been such a massive help. I think that the big thing with mental health is that you need to feel like you're actually able to do what you need to do to get past your stuff, because sometimes the stuff that we have gets too comfortable, and without it, you feel like you've got nothing. So and that's been a big juggle for me as well, because it's literally been with me for so long. But I think the beauty of this last 6 months, well, at least COVID's been hard, but the beauty of this last 12 months has been that I've been able to really grow into more of a person that I want to be. And I've become more of a self-advocate for as well, for me to be able to move forward and be where I need to be and where I want to be in my life. And it's been a really good thing to see. And obviously things come in and they kind of knock you down a little bit and take you down a peg, but I think we can all attest to the fact that it's been a really long road for all of us to get to where we are at this point in our lives, but we've finally gotten here. And as Dan said, you've really got to take ownership of it as well. You've really got to take ownership of it and be like who you want to be. Basically, your best version of yourself is where you've got to be.
I think the only thing I would add there is that I think the pandemic has brought the peer support team together much stronger.
Closer.
We're much closer than we were before. I think, as an organisation, Diane, our CEO, has really worked hard just to ensure that all teams have been, have had some mental initiative strategies and, and just communicate better. And I think we have done that. In March, when this thing kicked off, we were all working from home. It was very foreign to us. It was very nice for the first week. And then, you could see, every week that we would meet online, you could see everybody was starting to strain a little bit. And look, I wouldn't say that's over yet, because I know we've got the vaccine coming up, and I think we're going to have our own anxieties moving into that next phase. But certainly we've helped each other. Like Jess said, we've grown and we've advocated for each other, and we've advocated for our service. And also, look, we modified our service so we could help our clients, because, we all of a sudden were not in the spinal units. We had to use telehealth platforms, and we all had to learn this technology. And I think we've all learned that really well, and we're still learning that. But essentially, our peer support service is a face-to-face service. And, unless you've built a rapport with somebody, actually talking to them online was pretty difficult. But the team worked, tirelessly to ensure that we continued to offer our service to all our clients. And look, I think we would all agree that the service has come out stronger. We have maintained that contact with clients, and we're always going to have our battles with mental health, moving through this. But I think I'm very proud that our team has stuck together the way it has. It could have gone many different ways. But we've held it together.
As a final question, unrelated to anybody's disability, I'm just going to end it by asking, what gives you joy?
I have lots of things that give me joy, but probably it's the small things in life. I love doing a puzzle on a rainy day. I love a good cup of tea, and I love just being able to be a bougie bitch and sit at a really hipster coffee club and enjoy $7 worth of avocado on toast type thing. Like, that's where I'm happy in life, and that's where avocado on toast. But yeah, it's the simple stuff for me.
I think what gives me joy is being able to spend time with family is huge for me, but also just a simple going to the pub with mates. Honestly, it's one of the things that I absolutely love, and I love seeing my friends. I've got a great group of friends and family, and I think just spending time with them, that's my biggest one for sure.
Look, I think Star Wars is probably my my key.
That's 100%
Did you watch the latest episode of Mando? We can't do any spoilers, but
yeah, if it wasn't for Baby Yoda, I don't know where we'd be at right now. But
you mean that's not his name? What's his name?
Grugor, is it? Grugor, yeah. So look, I think for me, Grogu.
Yeah, that's it.
I think this pandemic time has allowed me to have family time. It's allowed me to see my girls, grow up, and we've spent more time as a closer unit, and I think that's been really important. We've got the board games out. Pandemic, Susan, as you know, still playing that. But I think we've all got different interests, and drinking is obviously one of those interests that appeals to us all. But look, I think what we try and do is just not focus on the disability. We lead, normal lives, fruitful lives, and there's a lot of enjoyment in what we do. So I just echo the sentiments of the other guys, really.
Just one other thing. I think the other thing that actually gives me joy to tell you God's honest is taking a deer in the headlights look out of clients. I actually get quite a kick out of my job and looking after these, the people that are going through a horrific thing, and being able to, I guess, give them the cheat sheet that I didn't get properly. So I didn't have to go through the shit that we've had to go through. And just seeing that, I guess, smile return to their face, I also get a kick out of it. Whether or not that's a greedy thing, I don't know, but I guess that's what's kept me in the game for as long as I've been in it. So
there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you've been able to learn something from these stories. Please be sure that if you like what we do, leave a 5-star review of this podcast and like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Have the Nerve has been a podcast by Spinal Cord Injuries Australia. Don't forget to check the show notes wherever you're streaming this for more information about anything we've discussed in this episode. Or you'd like to know more information about spinal cord injuries, please visit scia.org.au. Thank you for listening.